AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she accused my wife of being too masculine to be around them. So, I, 33M, have a younger sister, Emily, 29F, who has always been difficult, to put mildly. Growing up, she was the kind of person who needed to be the center of attention at all times. If someone else got praised, she'd find a way to turn the spotlight back to herself. When I got engaged to my wife, Lauren, 31F, Emily cried at the engagement dinner because it just hit her that her big brother was moving on without her. That should give you some idea of what we're dealing with. Lauren and I have been married for 4 years. She's an engineer, into woodworking, hiking, and cars. She's not what most people would call traditionally feminine. Short hair, no makeup, and she prefers jeans and boots over dresses. She's also one of the kindest, most patient people I've ever met. My parents adore her. Emily, on the other hand, has always had this weird passive-aggressive attitude toward her. She once said Lauren looks like she could beat someone up, and another time asked, "Do people ever mistake you for a guy?" Lauren laughed it off, but it stung. Emily is married to a guy named Ben, 31M. They have 2 kids, ages 6 and 4. For a while, I tried to maintain a good relationship with them. I'd help babysit, fix things around their house, and we'd host them for dinners. Lauren was always great with the kids. She'd build Lego sets, teach them how to make birdhouses, and read bedtime stories. The kids adore her. About 2 months ago, Emily called asking if I could watch the kids for a weekend while she and Ben went to a wedding out of town. I said sure, as long as Lauren was okay with it. She was more than happy to help. Everything seemed fine until the night before they were supposed to drop the kids off. Emily called me out of nowhere, voice sharp and shaky. She said, "Actually, I think we're going to find someone else to watch the kids." I asked why, and she said, "It's just Ben and I were talking, and we're not really comfortable with Lauren being alone with the kids." I thought she was joking. I asked her what she meant by that. She said, "You know, with how she looks and acts, kids get confused easily. I don't want them getting weird ideas about gender or whatever." I was stunned. I told her that was an incredibly offensive thing to say. She doubled down and said she didn't mean it like that, but that she just wanted her kids to see clear role models and not be influenced by adults who blur the lines. I told her she was being ridiculous and cruel. Lauren overheard part of the conversation and quietly went into another room, clearly hurt. I told Emily if she couldn't respect my wife, she could find someone else to watch the kids permanently. She said I was overreacting and hung up. After that, we didn't talk for a few weeks. My mom found out about it and tried to mediate, but Emily told her I twisted what she said. Then last week, Emily called me again, acting like nothing happened, and asked if I could babysit the kids because their regular sitter canceled last minute. I told her no. She got annoyed and asked why I couldn't just let the past go. I said it wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about respecting my wife. She said I was punishing her kids for adult drama. I told her it was her own fault for saying what she did. Now my parents are pressuring me to be the bigger person. They think Emily didn't mean it maliciously and that she's just ignorant. My dad said, "She's family, and family screws up sometimes. You shouldn't let the kids miss out on their uncle." Lauren told me she supports whatever I decide, but also said she's tired of pretending Emily's behavior is okay. The thing is, I know those kids didn't do anything wrong. I love them, but I can't shake how humiliating it was for Lauren to be judged like that in her own home by someone who has smiled to her face for years. Every time I think about helping Emily again, I picture Lauren standing in the hallway, trying not to cry, while Emily essentially called her a bad influence. A few nights ago, Emily sent me this long text saying she's sorry things got taken the wrong way, but that she's still not sure it's appropriate for Lauren to babysit. Then she said, "Maybe you could come alone next time." That set me off. I told her not to contact me again until she can apologize sincerely and treat Lauren with basic respect. She called me a drama queen and said I'm letting Lauren control me. I haven't responded since. Now my mom says I'm being cold and that the kids will grow up thinking I abandoned them. She said Emily has old-fashioned views, but means well. I told her meaning well doesn't excuse bigotry. My mom sighed and said, "I just wish you'd all get along." Lauren keeps saying she doesn't want to come between me and my family, but she also admitted she doesn't feel safe being around Emily anymore. She said she feels like if she so much as talks to the kids, Emily will accuse her of something. I hate that she feels that way. I hate that this is even a thing. The part that messes with me is that before this, Emily and I were close. We went through a lot growing up. Our dad worked long hours, our mom was sick for a while, and we leaned on each other. I know she's capable of being kind. I've seen it. That's what makes this hurt so much more. It's like she decided Lauren wasn't right for her version of reality and just erased all the good between us. Ben texted me yesterday saying I'm overreacting and that everyone knows Emily has a big mouth. He said I should get over it for the kids' sake. I told him this isn't about a slip of the tongue. It's about values. He replied, "You'll regret it when the kids stop asking for their uncle." So here I am, torn. Part of me wonders if I'm being too rigid. I don't want to punish innocent kids. But another part of me feels like standing firm is the only way to make it clear that what Emily said wasn't okay. If I cave now, it'll just teach her that she can say whatever she wants and I'll still show up when it's convenient for her. Lauren says she'll support me either way. My parents keep asking me to find a compromise. Emily still hasn't apologized. And I'm sitting here wondering if cutting contact, at least for now, makes me the bad guy or just someone tired of watching the people he loves get disrespected. AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids after she insulted my wife like that. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she blew up my engagement. So, I, 28F, have one younger sister, Lily, 25F. We grew up in a pretty turbulent household. Our parents were always fighting, and I ended up being the responsible one. I took care of Lily, helped her with school, made her meals, and basically played mom while our parents were working or arguing. When I turned 18, I moved out for college, and Lily stayed behind. We stayed close, though. I'd visit, send her money when she needed it, and when she turned 20, I let her move in with me rent-free so she could finish her degree. For a long time, I felt like I was just doing what a good sister should do. But things changed when I met my fiancé, Mark, 30M. We met at work and hit it off instantly. He's calm, kind, and he actually listens, which was something I wasn't used to growing up. We started dating, and after 2 years, he proposed. I said yes, and everything seemed perfect. Lily wasn't thrilled, though. At first, she acted supportive, but she'd make little digs like, "Hope you're not just marrying him because he's stable," or "I can't believe someone that chill is marrying someone as uptight as you." I laughed it off, thinking she was joking. But then she started inserting herself into our relationship. She'd show up unannounced at our place, tag along on our date nights, and even started texting Mark directly. It wasn't flirty, just weirdly intrusive. Things like, "Hey, I saw this recipe you might like," or "You should convince my sister to relax more." I brought it up to Lily a few times, but she'd always say, "I'm just trying to get to know my future brother-in-law." Mark said it didn't bother him, but I could tell it was awkward for him too. The real problem started when Lily moved out. She found a boyfriend, Ethan, and they got an apartment together. I thought that was a good sign. She was finally building her own life. But that relationship was chaotic from the start. They fought constantly, broke up and got back together at least 3 times, and when they finally split for good, she called me crying, asking to move back in. The timing couldn't have been worse. It was 3 weeks before my wedding. I told her it wasn't possible right then. We were getting the house ready for guests, and I just couldn't handle the stress. I offered to pay for her to stay in an Airbnb for a month or help her find a roommate situation. She called me cold and hung up on me. A few days later, she showed up at our engagement dinner uninvited. I was surprised but tried to be polite. Everything was fine until after a few glasses of wine. She stood up and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "I just don't think Mark is being honest about who he really is." The room went silent. Mark looked completely blindsided. My mom tried to intervene, but Lily kept going. She said she had proof that Mark had been emotionally cheating on me. texting another woman from work. She claimed she had screenshots from a mutual friend. I remember my hands shaking. Mark looked horrified and immediately denied it. He said he'd never texted anyone inappropriately and that he had no idea what she was talking about. Lily pulled out her phone, opened her messages, and started scrolling. Except when she found the screenshots, the timestamps and formatting were completely off. It looked like she'd copied and pasted text into a note app and tried to make it look like screenshots. Everyone just stared at her. My dad asked, "Lily, where did you get this?" And she said, "A friend sent them." I asked which friend, and she said, "It doesn't matter." At that point, Mark stood up and said he wasn't going to sit there while my sister fabricated things. He walked out, and I followed. Outside, he told me he didn't want me to choose between him and Lily, but that he couldn't be around her anymore. The next day, I called Lily and demanded an explanation. She broke down crying and said she panicked because she thought I was making a mistake marrying too quickly. When I asked how faking screenshots helped, she said, "I thought if you saw how easy it is to be fooled, you'd take a step back." I told her she'd completely crossed the line and that the wedding was still happening. She begged me not to shut her out, but I told her I needed space. The wedding went ahead, but Lily wasn't invited. My mom said that was cruel, but even she admitted what Lily did was unhinged. Since then, Lily's been couch surfing with friends and occasionally texting me to apologize, saying she just wants her sister back. A few weeks ago, she called and said she found a new job in my city but couldn't afford rent yet. She asked if she could stay with me and Mark just for a few months. I told her no. I said I loved her but didn't trust her under my roof, especially not with Mark. She started crying again, saying I was choosing a man over family and that she had nowhere else to go. I reminded her that she'd had plenty of options before, but burned every bridge. Now, my parents are on my case. My mom says I'm punishing Lily when she's already hit rock bottom, and my dad says family forgives. That's what family does. Mark says he'll support whatever I decide, but that he'd feel uncomfortable having her around. Part of me feels guilty. She's my sister, and I did promise her for years that I'd always have her back. But another part of me feels like she's never respected my boundaries or taken responsibility for anything she's done. Last night, Lily texted me again. "You're really going to let me be homeless because I try to protect you?" That one hurt. I didn't respond, but I've been thinking about it all day. So now I'm torn. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister move back in after she blew up my engagement and lied about my fiancé? AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she announced she's making my 7-year-old daughter the flower janitor? I, 34F, have a sister, Emily, 30F, who has always been dramatic. She loves attention, loves things being perfect, and tends to micromanage everything. I've always tried to keep the peace because she's my only sibling, and our parents often guilt me into just letting Emily have her way. Emily got engaged last year to her fiancé, Brian, 32M. I was genuinely happy for them. He seems like a good guy, a bit quiet but clearly smitten with her. When she started wedding planning, I knew there'd be some chaos, but I didn't expect this. I have a 7-year-old daughter, Lily. She's sweet, shy, and very close to Emily. Emily's been calling her my little mini-me since she was born and has always said Lily would be her flower girl. So, when she got engaged, Lily was over the moon about being part of the wedding. About a month ago, Emily called to formally invite Lily to be her flower girl. Lily was thrilled. We even went dress shopping together. Emily said she'd pay for the dress, and Lily picked a pretty pale yellow one that matched the wedding theme. Everything seemed fine. Then last week, Emily called me again, sounding weirdly excited but also nervous. She said she had a fun update about the wedding. She said, "So, I've been thinking a lot about the ceremony entrance and how to make it more unique. Traditional flower girls are so overdone, and I wanted something memorable. So I came up with this idea. Instead of having Lily just toss petals, she's going to clean them up after the bridesmaids walk down." I thought I misheard. I asked what she meant. She explained, completely serious, that the bridesmaids would each toss flower petals behind them as they walked, and Lily would follow with a small broom and dustpan, sweeping up the petals to symbolize clearing the path for new beginnings. I laughed because I thought it was a joke. She didn't laugh back. She was dead serious. I said, "Emily, you want my daughter to sweep the floor behind the bridal party? Like a janitor?" She said, "Don't say it like that. It's symbolic and adorable. Everyone will love it, and it fits perfectly with the rustic aesthetic." I told her there was absolutely no way Lily was doing that. She said I was being unsupportive and not understanding her artistic vision. I asked why she couldn't just have Lily be a regular flower girl, and she said, "Because it's boring. I want people to remember my wedding." I told her people would remember it for the wrong reasons. A few hours later, she texted me this whole long message about how disappointed she was, how I was teaching Lily to be entitled, and how sweeping petals isn't demeaning. It's symbolic of cleansing the past. She even added, "It's a huge honor. She'll have a special outfit and everything." I showed my husband 36M, and he was furious. He said Emily could find another symbolic way to make a statement because no child of his was going to sweep floors at a wedding. I called Emily the next day and told her Lily would not be attending the wedding at all if that was the plan. Emily lost it. She said I was ruining her big day and accused me of being jealous that Lily had a role in her wedding. I reminded her that she was the one turning the role into something humiliating. Then my mom called. Apparently, Emily cried to her, and now my parents are saying I'm being overly sensitive and that it's just a cute, creative idea. My dad actually said, "It's just sweeping petals, not cleaning toilets." I told them that if they thought it was so cute, maybe they could sweep up after the bridesmaids. That didn't go over well. Since then, it's been nonstop drama. Emily's posted on social media about people not supporting her vision and how some family members are trying to sabotage her wedding. She didn't name me, but it was obvious who she meant. A few relatives have texted me asking why I can't just let Lily have fun. But here's the thing. Lily overheard part of the conversation between me and my husband, and she got upset. She asked me, "Why does Aunt Emily want me to clean?" I tried to downplay it, but she said, "I don't want people to laugh at me." That broke my heart. When I told Emily that Lily didn't want to do it, she said, "She's 7. She doesn't know what she wants. You're putting words in her mouth." That was the final straw for me. I told Emily we wouldn't be coming to the wedding. Period. She exploded, said I was selfish, and making everything about me. She even accused me of emotionally blackmailing her by refusing to attend. Our parents have now fully taken her side. My mom said, "It's not about Lily. It's about supporting family." My husband thinks we should block them all for a while and just move on. But I'm honestly questioning if I went too far by pulling out completely. Maybe I could have compromised somehow. Maybe let Lily throw petals normally and just ignore Emily's vision. But I know Emily would never allow that. Now the wedding's in 2 weeks, and apparently Emily's found a replacement. My cousin's daughter, 5F, is going to be the flower janitor. I feel so bad for her because I know her mom. She'll go along with anything to stay on Emily's good side. Part of me feels guilty. Weddings are stressful, and I know Emily gets carried away. But part of me is angry that no one seems to care about how humiliating this would have been for my daughter. My husband says Emily just wants control and that she's used to everyone caving in. He thinks this was a test of whether I'd finally stand up to her and that I did the right thing. Still, I keep thinking about how this will blow up our family dynamic. Emily will never forgive me for not being there, and my parents will probably hold it against me for a long time. So, Reddit, AITA, for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she tried to make my daughter the flower janitor. AITA for refusing to let my parents move in with me after they kicked me out 10 years ago. I, 29F, bought my first house 6 months ago. It's a small 3-bedroom place in a quiet area. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked for years to get here, balancing 2 jobs, paying off student loans, and saving every penny I could. I'm incredibly proud of what I've built for myself, especially because I did it entirely on my own. My parents? They didn't help me. In fact, they were the reason I had to start from scratch. When I was 19, I got kicked out of my parents' house. The reason? I came out as bisexual. My parents are deeply religious, and to them, I was living in sin. It wasn't a fight that built up over time. It was one conversation at dinner that turned my entire life upside down. I told them I had a girlfriend. My mom cried. My dad yelled, and within 2 hours, my stuff was on the lawn in trash bags. I spent that night in my car. For a long time, I held on to the hope that they would call, apologize, or even just check if I was okay. They didn't. My younger brother, Nate, who was 14 at the time, tried to stay in touch secretly, but when my parents found out, they took his phone. I didn't see or speak to them for 5 years. During that time, I bounced between friends' couches, then finally got an apartment when I started working full-time at a tech company. Slowly, I rebuilt my life. I reconnected with Nate when he turned 18 and moved out. He was the only person from my family who didn't completely cut me off. Fast forward to this year. I finally closed on my house. Nate came over to help me move in, and we had this emotional moment. He told me how proud he was of me and how he always looked up to me for surviving everything on my own. I thought that was the end of the whole family drama. I was wrong. About a month ago, Nate called and told me our parents had fallen on hard times. My dad lost his job at the company he worked for 25 years when it downsized. My mom, who's never really worked outside the home, tried to find part-time work, but her health hasn't been great. Their savings are nearly gone, and they can't afford their mortgage anymore. Nate said they were going to lose the house. A week later, I got a call from my mom. It was the first time I'd heard her voice in nearly a decade. She sounded small, fragile, polite, not the person I remembered screaming about how I'd shamed the family. She told me they were trying to sell the house, but had nowhere to go in the meantime. Then, she asked if they could stay with me just until they got back on their feet. I honestly didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to laugh at the irony of it all. The same people who threw me out into the cold were now asking for my help. But another part of me, the part that still feels like that scared 19-year-old sitting in her car, was furious. I told her I'd think about it. Then I called Nate. He said he'd already offered for them to stay with him, but his apartment was tiny and his girlfriend wasn't comfortable having them there. He asked if I could consider it because, in his words, they've changed, they regret what they did. So, I invited them over for dinner, partly to see if that was true. It was awkward from the start. My mom tried to make small talk, asking about my job and complimenting my house. My dad barely looked at me. During dinner, my mom finally said they were sorry for how things went when I was younger. Not for kicking me out, not for the years of silence, just a vague apology about how things went. Then my dad chimed in and said, "We all make mistakes when we're emotional," as if my homelessness was just some bad argument. He went on to say he hoped I could move past the past and do the right thing by letting them stay. I told him that I had moved past it, but that didn't mean I wanted to reopen those wounds. I said no. They could sell the house, use the money to rent something small, or ask for help from their church community. My mom started crying. My dad called me ungrateful and said I was letting bitterness poison me. After they left, Nate called me furious. He said I was being heartless, that family takes care of family no matter what. I asked him if he remembered the night they kicked me out. He said he did, but that people change. I told him maybe they have, but I don't owe them a home after what they did. Now word spread through some extended family, aunts, cousins, even my grandmother, and they're split down the middle. Half of them say I'm justified, that my parents are reaping what they sowed. The other half say I'm holding on to a grudge and being cruel when I could easily help. And maybe that's what's messing with me most. I could help. I have the space, and it wouldn't destroy me financially. But every time I imagine them living here, cooking in my kitchen, sitting on my couch, sleeping under the same roof as me, I feel sick. Because this house represents freedom and safety, the things I lost when they turned me out. I told Nate that if they needed money for temporary housing, I'd contribute, but they are not moving in. He said that just proves I haven't forgiven them. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I never will. The last text I got from my mom said she understands, but is heartbroken that I could turn my back on my own parents. That line hit me hard because it's the same line she used when she kicked me out. You're turning your back on us and on God. The symmetry of it made me realize that maybe nothing has really changed. Now it's been a few weeks. They're staying with a friend from church for now, and Nate's barely speaking to me. My coworkers and friends mostly think I did the right thing, but at night, I still feel a mix of guilt and relief. I know it sounds cold to refuse your own parents when they're struggling, but I also know what it's like to be desperate and alone. Because of them, I spent years clawing my way out of that hole, and I can't bring myself to hand them the keys to the place I've built as my safe haven. So, AITA for refusing to let my parents move in with me after they kicked me out 10 years ago. AITA for refusing to go to my sister's child-free wedding after she demanded I leave my 8-year-old son behind, even though he's the ring bearer. So, here's the situation. My 33F sister, Emily, 29F, is getting married in December. She's been planning this wedding for over a year, and it's been nothing short of dramatic from the very beginning. Emily has always been particular, but she's turned into a full-blown, my wedding, my rules kind of person. Which, fine, it's her big day. But now it's gotten to the point where it's turned into a family war. I'm a single mom. My son, Ben, is 8 years old. He's a sweet, polite, quiet kid who loves Legos, dogs, and space documentaries. He's also very close to Emily. She babysat him when he was little, taught him how to bake cookies, and even promised him that one day he'd be in her wedding as the ring bearer. She made that promise years ago when he was 3. He still remembers it. Fast forward to 6 months ago when the save the dates went out. The card said, in fancy gold script, "Please note, this will be a child-free wedding." I was surprised, since she'd always talked about Ben being in the ceremony, but I figured maybe it was just a formality and she'd make an exception. I texted her to ask. Her response was, "Oh, right? I forgot to tell you. I still want Ben to be the ring bearer, but he'll need to leave after the ceremony. We're having a strict no children rule at the reception." I thought she was joking. I said, "So you want me to bring him, have him walk down the aisle, take photos, and then find someone to take him home before dinner?" She said, "Exactly. It'll be cute for photos, but I don't want kids running around or crying during the toasts. You'll have more fun without worrying about him. Except, here's the thing. The wedding is 3 hours away. I'd have to either drive there and back twice in one day, or pay for a hotel and somehow find childcare in a completely different city. My parents are both going to the wedding, so they can't watch him, and I don't have any relatives in that area." I explained all that to Emily and said it wasn't realistic. She said, "You could hire a sitter from a local agency." I laughed and said, "You seriously want me to leave my 8-year-old with a stranger in a hotel room in a city he doesn't know while I party at your reception?" She said, "You're being dramatic. Lots of people do that. It's just for one night." I told her it made me uncomfortable and that if she didn't want kids there, I understood, but then maybe Ben shouldn't be in the ceremony either. She immediately got upset, saying, "He's been part of my plan for years. It would look weird to replace him now." That's when I suggested maybe she could just drop the no kids rule for him, since he's family and in the wedding party. But she was adamant. No children at the reception, period. Things spiraled from there. My parents got involved, telling me to just make it work because it's her special day. My mom even offered to find someone trustworthy on care.com to watch him in the hotel. I refused. Eventually, I told Emily that if Ben isn't welcome at the whole event, we won't come at all. I said I wasn't going to drag him there just to parade him around for photos and then ship him off. She accused me of making her wedding about me and said I was punishing her for setting boundaries. Since then, she's been furious. She told our relatives that I'm being selfish and trying to ruin her big day. My aunt called me yesterday and said Emily was crying because now the lineup is uneven without Ben, and she's considering cutting the flower girl too because it'll look weird to have one kid and not the other. My parents are siding with Emily. My mom keeps saying I should compromise and let this go. She told me, "It's just one night of inconvenience. Emily deserves her dream wedding. But I don't think it's fair to expect me to hire a stranger to watch my kid in a hotel while I'm an hour away at a fancy dinner. And it feels cruel to make Ben part of the ceremony and then tell him he can't celebrate with the family afterward." Here's the kicker. Emily sent out the official invitations last month, and she actually listed Ben in the program as the ring bearer. She didn't even ask me if we were coming yet. When I reminded her that we hadn't agreed to anything, she texted me a long message about how family should support each other and how I was choosing comfort over love. Now, some of my cousins think I'm being unreasonable for not finding a way to make it work, but my best friend says Emily's completely out of line and just wants the photo op. To add insult to injury, Emily posted on Instagram a photo of Ben from a few years ago with the caption, "Can't wait to see this little man walk down the aisle," as if everything was fine. I called her out privately, and she said, "Don't make drama online. I'm just trying to stay positive." Ben overheard me on the phone one night and asked, "Aunt Emily doesn't want me there?" I told him gently that she just wanted a grown-up party, and he said, "But I'm her ring bearer." He looked crushed. I feel awful, but I'm also furious. I don't want to fight with my sister, but I can't justify going along with this ridiculous setup. Now my parents have offered to escort Ben home after the ceremony, so I can attend the reception alone, but that just feels worse. He'd know he's being excluded while everyone else goes to celebrate. Emily texted again yesterday saying, "I'm finalizing the seating chart. Please confirm if you're coming or if I should find a new ring bearer." I haven't replied yet. Part of me wants to just say no and be done with it. Another part of me feels guilty, like maybe I'm being too rigid. Maybe I could find some kind of solution. But I can't shake how wrong it feels to let her treat my son like a prop she can dismiss when he's served his purpose. So, Reddit-style question. Am I the asshole for refusing to go to my sister's wedding under these conditions? Or am I standing up for what's right, even if it means missing her big day? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's no children allowed wedding, even though I'm her maid of honor and a single mom. So I, 31F, have a 6-year-old daughter, Emma. Her dad is not in the picture. He left before she was born, and I've been raising her alone ever since. My sister, Kelsey, 28F, is getting married next month to her fiancé, Mark, 33M. They've been together for about 4 years, and honestly, I've always liked him. He's polite, funny, and seems to make her happy. I was genuinely thrilled when they got engaged, and even more so when Kelsey asked me to be her maid of honor. From the beginning, Kelsey made it clear that she wanted a classy, elegant, adults-only wedding. I didn't think much of it at first. I assumed that would mean no toddlers or babies who might cry during the ceremony, and that was fine. But when I asked if Emma would be allowed to attend, Kelsey said no. Her rule was no one under 16. At first, I thought she was joking. Emma is my daughter, her niece, and the flower girl in every family fantasy Kelsey and I ever talked about as kids. We used to dream about our weddings and laugh about how our kids would be flower girls or ring bearers. But Kelsey said that now that she's older, she wants a more refined vibe and doesn't want to deal with the unpredictability of children. I tried to reason with her. I said Emma is well-behaved and used to events. She's gone to dinners, school performances, and even my best friend's wedding where she was adorable. Kelsey refused to budge. She said, "It's nothing personal, I just don't want kids there, period." That's when things started to get awkward. The wedding is out of town, about a 5-hour drive away, and the entire weekend is booked with events, rehearsal dinner, bridal brunch, and the wedding itself. If I go, I'd have to leave Emma with someone for 3 full days. I don't have family nearby other than Kelsey, and my closest friend who could babysit will be out of the country. I looked into hiring a professional nanny, but the cost would be almost $600 for the weekend, not including travel and hotel, which I already have to pay for myself. I told Kelsey that I might not be able to make it if I can't find someone to watch Emma. She got upset, accusing me of being dramatic and selfish. She said, "You're my maid of honor. You can't just not come because you don't want to find childcare." I told her it's not that I don't want to, it's that I literally can't afford to. Kelsey then offered what she called a solution. Her fiancé's sister, Tessa, has 2 teenage daughters, 16 and 18, who could keep Emma entertained in their hotel room during the ceremony and reception. I said absolutely not. Emma doesn't know them, and I'm not leaving my 6-year-old with strangers for hours in a different city. Kelsey said I was overreacting and that it's not a big deal. Our mom got involved and said I should make it work for Kelsey's sake. Mom even offered to pay for part of the nanny, but only half, which still leaves me with a big chunk I can't cover comfortably. I'm already spending hundreds on the bridesmaid dress, alterations, hair and makeup, the bachelorette weekend, and travel. I told Mom and Kelsey that I love them both, but at some point, I have to think practically. That's when Kelsey completely lost it. She said I'm making her wedding about me, and that it's not fair that I refuse to compromise. I reminded her that I'm not the one imposing restrictions. she is. I said if she can't make an exception for her niece, then she needs to accept that I might not be there. She called me a selfish single mom who uses her kid as an excuse for everything. That one really hurt. Since then, the family group chat has exploded. My dad thinks Kelsey is being unreasonable, but he's trying to stay neutral because he doesn't want to cause drama. My mom keeps saying it's just one day and that I should sacrifice for family. Some of Kelsey's friends, who I thought were my friends too, have started posting vague things on social media about people who think the world revolves around their kids. It's clearly about me. I feel torn. On one hand, I understand it's her wedding and her rules. If she doesn't want kids, she's allowed to make that choice. But it feels incredibly cold and hurtful to exclude her only niece, especially when it directly prevents me from being there. On the other hand, maybe I'm being too emotional about it. Maybe I should just suck it up and do whatever it takes to be there for her, even if it means draining my savings or being stressed out the whole weekend. The thing that really pushed me over the edge happened last week. Kelsey sent out the final schedule for the wedding weekend, and in it, she listed all the bridesmaids' required activities: morning yoga, group photos, and a champagne brunch on the day of the ceremony. Every event was adults only, including the brunch. When I said I couldn't commit without knowing what's happening with Emma, she told me to stop making excuses and said if I couldn't handle the responsibilities, maybe she should reassign my role to someone more reliable. I told her that maybe she should. I said I love her, but she's being incredibly inconsiderate and expecting me to bend over backwards while ignoring my reality. She accused me of trying to ruin her wedding out of jealousy. That was the last straw. I told her if that's what she really thinks, then I'm done trying to reason with her. Now she's not speaking to me. Mom keeps calling, saying I should apologize and that one day isn't worth destroying your relationship over. But honestly, I don't know if I'm the one who owes an apology. I feel guilty because I don't want to let my sister down, but I also feel disrespected and dismissed. My friends are split. Some say it's her wedding, her rules, and I should respect that. Others say she's being controlling and exclusionary, especially since I'm a single parent and it directly impacts my ability to attend. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding if my daughter isn't allowed? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she told me my wife wasn't really family and couldn't sit at the family table? So I, 33M, have been married to my wife, Lily, 31F, for 5 years. We've been together for almost 9. My younger sister, Mia, 28F, is getting married in December, and what should have been a simple family celebration has turned into one of the ugliest arguments I've ever had with my family. Mia and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, straight, a student, captain of every team, my parents' pride and joy. I wasn't a failure or anything, but I was more introverted, liked art, and didn't exactly fit into my parents' very achievement-oriented mindset. Still, I've always supported her. I went to every graduation, cheered her on through every big milestone, even when she could barely remember my birthday. When I met Lily, everything in my life changed for the better. She's warm, compassionate, funny, and easily the kindest person I've ever known. But she doesn't come from the same kind of background as my family. Her parents were working-class immigrants who built everything from scratch, and my family, particularly my mom, has a bad habit of being patronizing about it. They're polite to her face, but I've overheard comments about her accent slipping through when she's tired or how she tries too hard to fit in. I've called them out before, but they always brush it off as me being too sensitive. When Mia got engaged last year, she asked Lily and me to be part of the wedding. Me as a groomsman, Lily as a guest of honor. It wasn't a bridesmaid role, but Lily didn't mind. She was genuinely happy for Mia and even helped her plan parts of the decor since she's a graphic designer. She spent hours helping Mia pick invitations and color palettes for free. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago, we all gathered at my parents' house for a wedding logistics meeting. Mia handed out seating charts, schedules, and other details. When I noticed Lily's name wasn't on the seating chart at our family's main table, I asked about it. Mia hesitated and said, "Oh, that's because we wanted to keep the family table just for immediate family this time." I thought she'd made a mistake. I said, "Lily's my wife. She's immediate family. Mia laughed awkwardly and said, well, I mean, yes, technically, but we wanted to make sure we had space for grandparents, aunts, and uncles first. Lily will be right at the next table with the partners of the bridal party. That didn't sit right with me. I asked if other spouses were sitting at the family table. She said yes. Her fiancé's brother's wife and her maid of honor's husband both had seats there. When I pointed out the inconsistency, she rolled her eyes and said, it's not a big deal. She'll be literally 5 feet away. My mom chimed in and said, honey, it's just for photos and tradition. Don't make this a thing. But it was a thing. They were singling my wife out. After the meeting, I called Mia privately and told her it was unfair. She got defensive and said, look, I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just that Lily doesn't really feel like family. She's lovely, but she's kind of on the outside of things. You two are in your own world. I asked her what that even meant. She said, you know what I mean. She doesn't come to family brunches much, she doesn't really get our humor, and she doesn't talk that much at gatherings. It's not personal, it's just about the vibe. That was the moment something snapped. I told her that if my wife wasn't considered family, then neither was I. I said we wouldn't be attending the wedding. Mia lost it, saying I was being dramatic and ruining her big day over a seating chart. Within hours, my parents were calling, begging me to reconsider. My dad said, son, you can't skip your sister's wedding. You'll regret it forever. My mom accused Lily of turning me against my own blood. They even went as far as to say that Lily should apologize for making this about her. Lily was crushed when she found out what Mia said. She cried for hours and told me she didn't want to be the reason I missed my sister's wedding. She even suggested I go alone, but I refused. I told her that if she wasn't welcome as my family, then I wasn't going either. Word got around to our extended relatives. Some are on my side, saying Mia's being elitist and cruel. Others think I'm the jerk for punishing her over something that could have been handled quietly. Mia's fiancé texted me, saying he respects my loyalty, but thinks I'm blowing things out of proportion and that weddings make people weird. Last week, Mia sent me a long message saying she was hurt that I would boycott her wedding over semantics. She said she never meant to insult Lily, just that she wanted the table to look balanced for photos. Then she added, you're choosing your wife over your sister, and that says a lot. I responded, yes, it does. It says that I honor my vows and my partner. Now my mom has doubled down, saying that if I don't show up, they'll all be deeply disappointed and it will cause a permanent rift. Here's the thing. I love my sister. I really do. But I can't get past what she said. That Lily isn't really family. After everything my wife has done, her patience, her kindness, her effort, it feels like Mia revealed what she and maybe my parents truly think. That my wife will always be a guest, not one of them. Some friends have said I should just go, smile for the photos, and keep the peace. But every time I picture sitting there while my wife's at another table, treated like an outsider, I feel sick. So now I'm stuck. If I don't go, I'll be the brother who abandoned his sister's wedding. If I do go, I'll be the husband who let his family disrespect his wife in public. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she said my wife isn't really family? AITA for refusing to give up my late wife's name for my new baby? So I, 34 am, have a 4-year-old daughter, Emma, from my marriage to my late wife, Lauren. Lauren passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with cancer. She was my first love, my best friend, and honestly, the strongest person I've ever met. Losing her broke me in a way I can't fully describe. The only thing that kept me going was Emma, because she's a little piece of Lauren that I get to keep. About 1.5 years ago, I met someone new, Hannah, 31F. She's amazing in her own right, kind, patient, funny, and she came into my life when I didn't think I could ever open my heart again. We've been together for a little over 1 year, and a few months ago we got married. It wasn't a rush thing. We talked a lot about it, and I made sure Emma was comfortable with her before anything became serious. Now Hannah and I are expecting a baby girl in February. We're both excited, but there's been a huge argument about what to name her. Before Lauren died, we had talked about wanting 2 kids, a boy and a girl. We had even picked out names, Emma, which we obviously used, and Grace because Lauren loved the simplicity of it. It was classic and had meaning to her. When Hannah got pregnant, I suggested Grace for the baby's name. It wasn't just about Lauren. It felt like a way to honor the family I've lost while building something new. I thought it was a nice bridge between my past and my present, a way for Emma and her new sister to feel connected, even though they'll have different mothers. But when I brought it up, Hannah immediately shot it down. She said naming our baby something that Lauren picked would make her feel like she's living in Lauren's shadow. I told her it wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about honoring a promise and a part of my life that shaped who I am. She said she doesn't want her child defined by a ghost. We argued. A lot. She accused me of being emotionally stuck in the past. I told her that she's asking me to erase part of my life just to make her comfortable, which isn't fair either. Eventually, she said she'd compromise if I agreed to make Grace the middle name instead. But that didn't feel right to me. I wanted to keep that name for a reason, and making it a middle name felt like watering down something that had deep meaning. Then Hannah brought up something that honestly felt cruel. She said, "You wouldn't like it if I named our daughter after my ex-boyfriend. So why should I like this?" That stung. Comparing Lauren, who died and was the mother of my first child, to an ex-boyfriend felt like a low blow. I told her that Lauren wasn't an ex. She was my wife, my family. Things have been really tense since then. Hannah told her parents about it, and now they think I'm being disrespectful and romanticizing my late wife. Her mom even said it's emotionally unhealthy for me to carry my past into my new marriage. I tried explaining that grief doesn't just vanish when you remarry, and that honoring someone's memory isn't the same as being stuck, but it fell on deaf ears. The part that makes me question myself is Emma. She's only 4, but she's smart and intuitive. A few nights ago, she was helping me fold baby clothes and asked if her baby sister could be named Grace, because that's what Mommy liked. I didn't know what to say. I told her we'd see, and she just smiled and said, "Mommy would like that." When I told Hannah what Emma said, she went quiet for a long time, then told me she felt outnumbered. She said it's not fair that Lauren still gets to have a say in our family decisions. I tried to reassure her that this isn't about Lauren controlling anything. It's about keeping a small piece of her alive for our daughters. But Hannah told me if I keep pushing this, she'll just pick a name on her own and put on the birth certificate before I even get a say. That honestly scared me, because it made me realize how deep this resentment runs for her. She's been pulling away emotionally since the argument, sleeping in the guest room some nights, and barely talking to me except about logistics. I've tried to explain my side calmly, but she says every time I bring it up, I'm choosing my dead wife over her. I don't want to lose Hannah. I really don't. But I also don't want to erase Lauren from our lives just to make things easier. My daughter already lost her mother. Should I take away her chance to feel connected to her baby sister through something as simple as a name? I've started to wonder if I'm being unfair. Maybe I'm too sentimental. Maybe I'm holding on to something I should have let go of by now. But then I look at Emma, and I remember the promises I made to Lauren in those last few weeks about keeping her memory alive, about making sure Emma always knew who her mother was. Grace was part of that promise. My family, my parents and sister, think Hannah is being unreasonable and that honoring Lauren's memory is something she should accept as part of being with a widower. But some of my friends, especially the ones who've been through remarriage, say I'm being tone deaf and that Hannah's feelings should come first because this is her child too. I've tried suggesting alternatives, like giving the baby a completely new name but putting Grace as a second middle name, or even using a name that sounds similar. But every time I do, it just feels hollow. It's not about the sound of the name. It's about what it means. Last night, Hannah told me she's thinking of staying with her parents for a while to clear her head. She said she can't raise a child in a house that still belongs to another woman's memory. That hurt more than anything she's said so far. I don't even know how to respond anymore. I love her. I love Lauren. I love both my daughters, one here and one on the way, and I just wish I could find a way to honor all of them without tearing my family apart. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give up my late wife's name for my new baby? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée move into my house after their apartment burned down. So for context, I, 34F, own a house that I bought about 6 years ago. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. It took me years of saving, skipping vacations, and living with roommates to get to a point where I could afford it. I work in IT, and while I make a comfortable income now, it wasn't always that way. My house is my safe space. I live alone with my dog, Pepper, and I've worked hard to make it feel peaceful and stable. My younger brother, Tyler, 29M, and I were close as kids, but have drifted as adults. He's always been the fun one, very social, spontaneous, and kind of reckless with money. He met his fiancée, Kelsey, 27F, 3 years ago, and they've been together ever since. Kelsey and I have never really clicked. She's friendly on the surface, but she's also the type who makes little passive-aggressive comments and acts like she knows everything better than everyone else. Anyway, 2 months ago, they had a horrible accident. Their apartment building caught fire, and while no one was hurt, they lost most of their stuff. Thankfully, they had renter's insurance, but the payout process is slow, and they needed somewhere to stay. Initially, they stayed at Kelsey's parents' house. A few weeks later, Tyler called me asking if they could move in for a couple of months while their new apartment was being renovated and their insurance came through. Now, my guest room isn't huge, but it's comfortable. Still, the thought of 2 extra adults living in my space made me uneasy. I like quiet. I work from home. I have my routines. And honestly, Kelsey's personality makes me anxious. She's loud, opinionated, and a bit entitled. I told Tyler I needed to think about it. He got quiet and said, "We don't really have other options, you know." I asked if they could stay longer at her parents'. He sighed and said it was too cramped, and that Kelsey's mom and dad were driving her crazy. I suggested they look for a short-term rental or Airbnb. He said that would be too expensive, and they were trying to save money. After a couple of days, I told him no. I said I was sorry for what they were going through, but I didn't feel comfortable having them move in. I offered to help them find an affordable temporary rental and even said I'd lend them some money to cover the first few weeks if needed. He got quiet again and said, "Wow, so you'd rather give strangers money than help your own brother?" I said that wasn't fair, that I was trying to protect my boundaries and peace, and that having 2 people in my house for months would really disrupt my life. He hung up on me. Since then, it's blown up. My parents called furious. They said I'm being selfish, that family helps family, and that I could easily make room. I told them that family also respects boundaries, and that I'd already offered financial help. My mom said, money isn't the same as a roof over their heads. Kelsey texted me a few days later saying she was disappointed in me. She said she'd always thought of me as strong and independent, but now sees that I'm cold and materialistic. She even hinted that if the roles were reversed, they'd never let family struggle. I didn't respond. The thing is, it's not just about them staying here. It's how I know it would go. Kelsey would take over the kitchen. She's a huge clean freak, but in a controlling way. The last time she stayed here for a weekend, she reorganized my spice rack because it made more sense alphabetically. She criticizes the way I load my dishwasher, the way I train my dog, even the brand of coffee I buy. Tyler tends to just laugh and go along with whatever she says, which makes it worse. Also, I work remotely from my home office. I'm on client calls all day. The noise, interruptions, and general chaos would make it impossible to focus. I can already picture Kelsey needing to use the office for her wedding planning Zoom calls or Tyler blasting music while he cooks. It's not like I could just go to a cafe. I need privacy for my work. But my family doesn't see any of that. They just keep repeating that it's temporary and that I should be grateful I can help. My dad even tried guilt-tripping me by saying, if something happened to you, you know Tyler would be there in a heartbeat. Which honestly, I doubt. He's never been the most reliable when it comes to actually showing up. The tension has gotten worse. My parents barely speak to me now unless it's to tell me I'm being unfair. Tyler hasn't answered my calls in weeks. My aunt even messaged me saying she couldn't believe I was abandoning my brother in a time of need. I feel like the family scapegoat, but also I can't shake the feeling that if I gave in, I'd be miserable for months. Yesterday, Tyler finally texted. He said they found a temporary sublet through a friend, and they'd be moving in next week. He added, "Don't worry, we won't need your precious peace and quiet." That one stung. Now I'm wondering if I really did make this harder than it needed to be. Maybe I could have just tolerated them for a couple of months. Maybe I'm too protective of my space. But on the other hand, I know myself. I know how drained I get when I don't have privacy or control over my environment. I've spent years building a stable, calm life after some pretty rough experiences, including a toxic ex who used to make me feel like my needs didn't matter. So now I'm stuck between guilt and relief. Guilt because my brother clearly feels abandoned, and relief because my home is still my sanctuary. My best friend says I did the right thing, and that people who call boundaries selfish just benefit from you not having any. But my family keeps insisting I've shown my true colors. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée move in with me, even temporarily when they were in a tough spot. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she made my daughter feel unwelcome. So I, 39F, have a younger sister, Emily, 34F. We've always been close growing up, but our relationship has gotten more complicated as adults. I'm married to my husband, Ryan, 41M, and we have a 14-year-old daughter, Lily. Emily got engaged last year to her fiancé, Josh, 36M. I was genuinely happy for her. She's always dreamed of a big, elegant wedding, and Josh seems like a great guy. Emily asked me to be her maid of honor, and I was touched. I helped her pick venues, taste cakes, even helped her manage some vendor drama when she and Mom were fighting over floral arrangements. I thought everything was fine, but things started to change once Emily started planning her no kids policy for the wedding. Now, I understand that no kids weddings are common. I didn't fight her on it initially, but then she told me that Lily couldn't come either. Lily isn't some toddler who might scream during vows. She's a well-behaved teenager who's been nothing but supportive of her aunt. She even helped Emily pick out her dress and spent hours helping with invitation calligraphy. When Emily told me Lily wasn't invited, I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I told her that if my daughter wasn't welcome, I'd have to reconsider attending, since Lily and I are a package deal. Emily rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic. Her reasoning was that she wanted the wedding to be sophisticated and adult-only, and she didn't want to make exceptions for anyone's kids because it might upset other guests who had to leave theirs home. I tried to reason with her. Lily isn't just any guest kid. She's her niece and part of the immediate family. Emily refused to budge. She said she didn't want to set a precedent, and that rules are rules. When Lily found out, she was crushed. She tried to act like it didn't bother her, but I could tell she was hurt. She's looked up to Emily her whole life, and being told she wasn't welcome at her favorite aunt's wedding really broke her heart. Ryan was furious and said we should decline the invitation altogether. I told Emily that I couldn't in good conscience leave my daughter home while I attended a wedding where she was deliberately excluded. Emily blew up at me. She accused me of trying to make her wedding about me and guilt-tripping her. She even said, "You could just tell Lily it's an adult event and move on like a normal parent." The situation got worse when our mom got involved. Mom took Emily's side and said I was being selfish for not attending. Her argument was that a wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event and that I should support my sister no matter what. She told me Lily would understand when she's older. But what really stung was that Emily later told other family members that I was boycotting her wedding over a teenager's hurt feelings. Soon, relatives started texting me, saying I was being petty and making everything about myself. A few even called me overprotective. To make things more complicated, Emily decided to have her fiancé's teenage nephews at the wedding because they're in the wedding party. When I found out, I lost it. I called her out for hypocrisy. She tried to argue that it's different because they have roles, but I reminded her that Lily could have been a junior bridesmaid or done something similar if she'd been asked. Emily snapped and said, I didn't want to deal with teenagers hanging around and ruining the vibe. That was the breaking point for me. I told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding if my daughter wasn't welcome. Emily screamed that I was ruining her big day and hung up on me. A few days later, she sent me a long text saying she was disappointed in my priorities, that I was choosing my child over her, and that I'd regret missing her wedding for something so trivial. She also mentioned that our parents were embarrassed because guests were starting to ask why I wasn't listed as maid of honor anymore. I didn't respond right away, but the next morning I texted her back and said, I'm always going to choose my child. If that's a problem, that's on you. Since then, we haven't spoken. The wedding happened 2 weeks ago. I didn't go. Ryan and I took Lily on a little weekend trip instead. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet getaway, so she wouldn't feel left out. Apparently, Emily's wedding went smoothly, but now she's not talking to me at all. She blocked me on social media, and Mom keeps saying I need to apologize for overreacting. She said Emily cried on her honeymoon because I abandoned her. Now some family members are divided. My aunt said Emily was being unreasonable for excluding her niece, but others think I blew it out of proportion and should have just gone to keep the peace. Part of me wonders if I should have just swallowed my pride, attended the wedding for a few hours, and avoided the fallout. But another part of me feels like I did what any good parent would do, stand by my kid when someone, even family, makes them feel unwanted. Since the wedding, Lily's been quieter about it, but I can tell she's still hurt. She saw some photos online and said, I guess I just wasn't fancy enough for Aunt Emily. That broke me. I tried to remind her that sometimes adults make choices that aren't fair, but I couldn't help but think Emily created this whole mess for no good reason. Ryan says I shouldn't second-guess myself, and that Emily showed her true colors. But now the holidays are coming, and I'm dreading the inevitable family gathering where everyone will want to talk about what happened. So here I am, months later, wondering if I did the right thing. Did I overreact by refusing to attend my sister's wedding over her no-kids rule, or was I justified in standing up for my daughter when she was singled out like that? AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she ruined my wedding? I, 30F, got married 6 months ago to my husband, Ben, 32M. It was honestly supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but instead it turned into a disaster because of my younger sister, Zoe, 26F. My parents and I haven't spoken to her since that day, and now she's asking to move in with me because she's in a tough spot. I told her no, and now the whole family is divided again, saying I'm being cold and petty. But I can't forget what she did. For context, Zoe and I were close when we were younger. She was always the loud, outgoing one, and I was the more responsible, quiet sibling. Growing up, she got away with a lot. My parents used to joke that she could charm the devil himself. She'd break things, lie, get into drama, and somehow I'd end up helping her clean up the mess. When we got older, I started to distance myself, especially when she started dating my ex, Tom, just a few months after he and I broke up. It wasn't a long relationship, but it was humiliating, and it took me a long time to forgive her. When Ben and I got engaged, I wanted to keep things simple. I didn't plan to have a big bridal party, just my best friend, Megan, as my maid of honor. But my mom pushed hard for Zoe to be included. She's your only sister, she kept saying. You'll regret leaving her out. Against my better judgment, I made Zoe a bridesmaid. From the start, she was a nightmare, complaining about the dresses, ignoring group chats, showing up late to fittings, and constantly making jokes about how boring my wedding would be. I tried to brush it off as just her being Zoe. 2 weeks before the wedding, she called me crying, saying she'd broken up with her boyfriend of 2 years. She was devastated and begged me not to make her sit alone like a loser. I told her she could bring a +1 if it made her feel better. I thought she'd bring a friend. I didn't think I needed to specify any rules about who. The day of the wedding, everything was going perfectly until the reception. During cocktail hour, my maid of honor came to me looking panicked. She whispered that Zoe had brought someone unexpected. I looked over and saw her laughing loudly, drink in hand, sitting with none other than Tom, my ex. The same guy she dated years ago after me. I froze. Ben saw my face and asked what was wrong. When I told him, his jaw literally dropped. My dad noticed the tension and went over to talk to her, but she just smiled and said, "What? We're friends again." It's ancient history. I couldn't believe she would do that, especially in my wedding. I tried to hold it together through dinner, but then the real chaos started. During the toasts, Zoe got up uninvited and insisted she had something to say. I wanted to tell her to sit down, but she grabbed the mic and started rambling about how wild it is that love comes full circle, and how she used to date the groom's wife's ex, and how sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs before finding your prince. The entire room went silent. Tom looked mortified. Ben's parents were confused. I wanted to disappear. She kept talking, trying to make jokes about my type, and how, thankfully, Ben seems to have more stamina. People laughed nervously, thinking it was part of a plan bit, but it wasn't. I finally walked up, took the mic from her, and told her she needed to stop. She rolled her eyes, called me uptight, and stumbled off to get another drink. Later that night, when she was clearly drunk, she accidentally spilled red wine all over my dress during the first dance. The photographers caught the moment I looked at her, completely shocked as she started crying and yelling that nobody ever lets her have fun. She stormed out before the cake cutting, taking Tom with her. I cried for hours after. We ended up leaving our reception early because I couldn't face anyone anymore. The next day, I told my parents I didn't want Zoe anywhere near me. They tried to defend her, saying she was just emotional and didn't mean it. But I was done. I blocked her number and haven't seen her since. Fast forward to last week. I got a call from my mom saying Zoe had lost her job and was being evicted. Apparently, she'd been living with a boyfriend who kicked her out, and she had nowhere to go. Mom said, "You have a guest room. Just let her stay until she gets back on her feet." I said no immediately. My mom started crying, saying I was punishing Zoe and that family is supposed to help family. But I reminded her that Zoe humiliated me in front of 120 people and ruined one of the most important days of my life. Mom said that was months ago. You can't hold a grudge forever. I told her forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it definitely doesn't mean living together. That night, Zoe texted me from a new number. She said she was sorry for what happened, but added that I was too uptight and should have laughed it off. She ended the message by saying, "If you were a real sister, you'd help me." I didn't reply. Ben fully supports me and says she's toxic and I shouldn't let her back into my life, especially not our home. But now my dad's been calling, saying I've changed since getting married and that it's cruel to leave family homeless. My parents even offered to pay her rent if I let her stay with us. But honestly, even if they offer me money, I wouldn't. Part of me feels guilty. She's still my sister, and the idea of her sleeping in her car makes my stomach hurt. But then I remember standing in that white dress with wine dripping down my skirt while she laughed and said, "Oops, my bad," and I realize I can't risk it. She's never once taken real responsibility for the chaos she causes. Now everyone in my family is split. Half think I'm being heartless. The other half think I'm finally setting boundaries. I don't know anymore. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but after everything she did, I don't think I can ever trust her again. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister move in after she ruined my wedding. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend to my wedding after he insulted my family. I, 28F, have always been close with my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, we were inseparable, though like most siblings, we had our fair share of fights. Over the past few years, things got a little complicated. Emily started dating a guy named Derek around 2 years ago. At first, I liked him. He seemed funny, outgoing, and charming. But over time, I started noticing red flags. He could be very condescending, often making passive-aggressive jokes at my expense or my family's. I tried to overlook it, telling myself that dating someone who challenges you is normal, but it started to affect our relationship. Fast forward to a few months ago, I got engaged to my fiancé, Daniel, 30M. Planning the wedding has been stressful, but mostly in the usual way: budgeting, seating charts, and family drama. However, my main concern was Emily and Derek. I initially included Derek in some wedding planning discussions because I didn't want him to feel left out, and I thought it would show Emily that I respected her relationship. This was a mistake. At a family dinner to celebrate our engagement, Derek made a comment that caught everyone off guard. My mom had just mentioned how proud she was of both of us, and Derek said, "Well, at least someone turned out normal in this family." Not everyone can say that, right? Everyone went silent. I asked him what he meant, and he smirked and said, "You know, some of you are kind of embarrassing." I try to stay out of it, but it's hard sometimes. My mom looked shocked, My dad looked furious, and Emily's face went pale. Derek then laughed awkwardly and said, "Relax, I was joking," but it was too late. The damage was done. I pulled Emily aside afterward and explained that while I valued her friendship and loved her, Derek's behavior was unacceptable, especially in front of our family. Emily got defensive, saying I was overreacting and that I didn't understand his sense of humor. I tried to explain that there's a difference between teasing and being insulting, but she brushed it off. Since then, I have been wrestling with what to do about the wedding. My fiancé and I decided early on that we wanted our wedding to be a safe and comfortable space for everyone who mattered to us. I spoke with Daniel about the dinner incident, and we agreed that inviting Derek might cause unnecessary tension. I finally told Emily that while she was absolutely welcome, Derek would not be invited. She was furious. She accused me of being controlling, of not respecting her choices, and even implied that I was being childish. She said that if Derek couldn't come, she might not attend either. I tried reasoning with her, explaining that our wedding is about me and Daniel, and we want it to be a day where our family and friends feel happy and safe. She said that I was prioritizing my feelings over hers, and that it wasn't fair to punish her for Derek's mistakes. Emily even went as far as threatening to post on social media about my ruthless behavior, which shocked me. My parents are caught in the middle. They understand why I feel the way I do, but they also want Emily to feel included. To complicate things further, Derek has recently started messaging my friends on social media, making passive-aggressive comments about our wedding, like, "Hope you don't mind boring people at the wedding with all the fake smiles," or, "I guess some people just can't handle fun." This has only reinforced my decision. Daniel thinks I am handling it correctly and says I need to prioritize the kind of environment we want for our wedding. My dilemma is this. Emily has always been my sister and best friend, and I don't want to hurt her feelings or push her away, but Derek has shown consistent disrespect toward my family and me. I don't want a day that's supposed to celebrate love and unity to be overshadowed by his attitude. I've tried compromising, like suggesting Derek attend only the ceremony or keeping interactions minimal, but Emily insists it's all or nothing. I've even considered couples counseling with Emily, just to have a mediator help her understand my side, but she refuses, saying it's unnecessary. At this point, I feel like I'm stuck between protecting my happiness and relationship with my fiancé or risking family drama and a possibly ruined wedding. Some friends have told me I am justified and need to set boundaries, while others say I should bend a little to keep the peace. I feel like I've already compromised enough by including him in early discussions, and I don't think it's unreasonable to say that his behavior has consequences. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to invite my sister's boyfriend to my wedding after he insulted my family multiple times and made the idea of him being there uncomfortable for everyone. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she accused me of ruining her engagement party. My sister, Emily, has always been the golden child of our family. She's 5 years older than me. And while I've always had a decent relationship with her, there has always been an underlying tension stemming from how our parents favor her. Over the years, I've learned to accept it and keep a polite distance when necessary. Recently, Emily got engaged to a man named Ryan. From the beginning, their relationship has been complicated. Ryan is sweet enough, but he's extremely controlling. He has a lot of opinions on how Emily should live her life, what she should wear, and even how our family should behave around him. I noticed these things early on, but I stayed quiet, telling myself it wasn't my place to interfere. A month ago, Emily and Ryan decided to throw an engagement party at a local hall. They invited close family and friends, including me. The night of the party, I tried to be helpful. I brought a bottle of wine, helped the caterers set up, and offered to coordinate the music playlist since I have experience with event planning. Initially, everything seemed fine. The problem started when Emily asked me to help set up a surprise slideshow. She wanted pictures of her and Ryan, plus childhood pictures of her, to play during the party. I agreed, thinking it would be fun and make her happy. I spent hours putting together the slideshow and even included a few funny, light-hearted photos of Emily and me growing up, assuming she would find them amusing. When the slideshow started, I could see Ryan frowning almost immediately. A few of the photos I had included were of Emily doing silly things as a kid, like the time she got caught with glitter all over her face and clothes during a craft project. I didn't think it was mean-spirited. They were harmless and funny memories. However, Ryan didn't see it that way. He loudly said, "This is embarrassing. Why would you include this?" Emily, instead of laughing, looked visibly upset. The tension escalated when Ryan started making comments about how I always try to steal attention from Emily and implied that I was trying to make the party about me. I was confused and hurt. All I did was create a slideshow to celebrate her and her fiancé. I tried to explain, calmly, that the photos were meant to be funny and lighthearted, not embarrassing or disrespectful. Emily, however, immediately got defensive and told me I had ruined the party. She said it in front of all the guests, and everyone fell silent. After that, Ryan demanded that I apologize, not just to Emily, but to the entire room. I apologized in a general sense for any discomfort I caused, but I did not accept responsibility for ruining the party, because in my mind, I hadn't. I had tried to contribute something thoughtful and meaningful. Emily was furious and said I had humiliated her in front of everyone, and that I was jealous and petty. The rest of the evening was awkward. I tried to keep my distance and enjoy the party without getting dragged into further arguments, but Emily kept giving me dirty looks. Ryan made snide remarks all night, and a few of our relatives later told me that Emily had texted everyone after the party, saying that I had ruined the celebration and that she didn't want me at the wedding. I was shocked. I didn't think she would hold a grudge like that over a slideshow with a handful of silly pictures. Since then, Emily has repeatedly contacted me, pressuring me to apologize properly, attend her wedding, and make things right. She's also tried to manipulate our parents into guilt-tripping me, saying I'm being selfish and destroying family bonds. I've explained multiple times that I'm not trying to hurt anyone, and I genuinely do want her to be happy, but I refuse to apologize for something I don't think I did wrong. I also do not feel comfortable attending her wedding under these circumstances because I know Ryan will be there and will likely make me feel uncomfortable or attacked again. Our parents are upset with me and say I'm overreacting, accusing me of letting a small thing ruin family traditions. My friends are divided. Some think I should apologize and attend for the sake of family harmony, while others say Emily is being unreasonable and manipulative. Emily recently sent me a text calling me the black sheep of the family and said if I don't attend her wedding, I'm showing that I don't care about her happiness. I feel trapped because on one hand, I love my sister and I want to be part of her big day, but on the other hand, I also have to protect my own dignity and mental health. I haven't replied to her last message and have started mentally preparing myself to not go. I feel guilty, but also frustrated because it seems like any attempt to make peace only gives her and Ryan more leverage to blame me. I'm trying to figure out if I'm really in the wrong here. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she accused me of ruining her engagement party. Character count, 6,358. If you want, I can draft a second version that leans even more into dramatic Reddit-style interpersonal conflict, which often performs well on the platform. This one is slightly more grounded, but the next could push the emotional tension further. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she demanded I change my career plans. I, 28F, come from a family where appearances are everything. My parents are well off and highly involved in social circles where everything, from the car you drive to the type of job you have, is under constant scrutiny. I've always tried to follow my own path quietly, but it's never really been easy. My sister, Clara, 32F, on the other hand, has always been the golden child. She got everything she wanted, and our parents bend over backward to make her life look perfect. Over the past few years, I've been pursuing a career as a wildlife photographer. It's not exactly the most stable path, but it's my passion. I started working with a small conservation nonprofit, traveling for assignments, and building my portfolio. My parents aren't thrilled, but have tolerated it because I pay my own bills. I've never asked for financial support. Clara got engaged about 6 months ago, and the wedding planning started immediately. She's marrying someone from a very wealthy family, and the wedding is massive. We're talking over 200 guests, rented venues, a 3-day itinerary, and a budget that could easily fund my photography business for a year. She's very clear about the kind of wedding she wants: flawless, meticulously curated, and full of people who reflect well on her and her fiancé. A few months into planning, she called me to discuss bridesmaids. She initially asked if I'd be one, which I said yes to, thinking it would be fun. That's when things got weird. She told me she expects all bridesmaids to adhere to very strict standards, certain body types, coordinated diet plans leading up to the wedding, and, most importantly, specific careers or aspirations that reflect the lifestyle she wants. My passion for wildlife photography came up, and she didn't hide her disapproval. She said, and I quote, "I can't have my bridesmaid being a freelance photographer who spends her life in tents and jungles. People will judge. You need to have a real job, something impressive." It's embarrassing. I was stunned. I reminded her that I'm pursuing something I love, that I support myself, and that my career path is legitimate, even if unconventional. She rolled her eyes and said, "It's just not appropriate for this wedding. I'm asking you to consider something more respectable. You're not a kid anymore." Over the next few weeks, she kept pressuring me. She suggested corporate jobs, graduate programs, even teaching. Every suggestion was something she considered prestigious. I tried to explain that my career is fulfilling and that I don't plan to quit, but she refused to accept it. She even went so far as to imply that if I didn't change my career, I would make her wedding look bad in front of her friends and family. I told her firmly that I couldn't abandon my career just for a wedding. I said I'd still attend, I'd still help in other ways, but I couldn't and wouldn't give up my life for her ego. That's when she blew up. She accused me of being selfish, ungrateful, and a liability to the image she's building. She then sent a very long group message to the family, stating that my refusal to follow her instructions means I am not supportive of her and that my presence might not be welcomed at all. My parents tried to mediate, suggesting I compromise by at least slowing down my career or pretending to have a more conventional job at the wedding. I refused. I told them I wouldn't lie about who I am just to make someone else feel comfortable. This led to multiple arguments. They think I'm overreacting and should just do this one thing to maintain family harmony. But I feel like the request is absurd and controlling. After another week of pressure, I made a decision. I told Clara I wouldn't attend her wedding if she continued to demand that I change my life. She sent me a long, furious text calling me heartless, dramatic, and the worst sister. She accused me of sabotaging her big day and said I'm proving she was right about me being irresponsible. The family is now split. Some relatives think I'm right to stick to my life choices, while others say I'm overreacting and that I should put aside my personal feelings for a day to support my sister. I feel like attending under those conditions would be endorsing her behavior and sending the message that it's okay for people to demand you give up your dreams for their comfort. I've tried to explain to my parents that this is about more than a wedding. It's about me refusing to let my sister dictate my life. But I'm now being labeled as the villain in my family. Clara has hinted that if I don't come, I won't be invited to family gatherings for a while. I feel torn because I love my sister and I want her to be happy, but I also can't compromise my entire career path for a social event, no matter how big. My friends are supportive, but the family drama is intense. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she demanded that I change my career plans to fit her idea of respectability. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because my ex-wife is the maid of honor. So, this whole thing has turned into a complete circus, and apparently I'm the villain of the family now. I'm a 35-year-old guy, and I divorced my ex-wife, Megan, about 4 years ago after 7 years of marriage. It wasn't a scandalous divorce. No cheating, no huge blow-up, but it was painful. We just grew apart. She wanted kids right away. I wanted to wait. She wanted to move across the country for a job. I didn't. Eventually, it became obvious that we wanted different lives. We split amicably, or at least I thought so at the time. Here's where it gets messy. My younger brother, Jake, 29M, and I have always been close. Growing up, he was my best friend, my shadow, the guy I defend even when he was wrong. He came to me for advice on everything: girls, jobs, school. When he met Megan through me years ago, they got along fine. She used to joke that Jake was like my golden retriever, always following me around. Fast forward to about 6 months ago, Jake calls to tell me he's getting married to his longtime girlfriend, Emily. I was thrilled for him. She's sweet, kind, and I honestly thought she was perfect for him. I told him I'd be there for anything he needed, best man, planner, whatever. He said he wanted me to be the best man. I said yes, without hesitation. Then, a month later, he drops a bomb. He tells me that Megan is going to be the maid of honor. Apparently, Emily and Megan became close friends through a volunteer organization they both work with. Emily met her after my divorce and had no idea who she was at first. When she found out, she says she didn't want to let past relationships dictate her friendships. Okay, fine. But when Jake told me, I laughed and said, "You're kidding, right?" He wasn't. He said it wasn't a big deal and that everyone's adults now. I told him that having to stand across from my ex-wife at the altar for hours, do photos, speeches, and dinner together was not something I was comfortable with. He said he understood, but that Emily would be heartbroken if Megan wasn't there. I told him I wouldn't tell him who to invite to his wedding, but I might need to reconsider my role. He immediately got defensive, saying I was making it about myself. He said, "You and Megan ended on good terms, right? So why is this a problem now?" I said, "Because it's weird, Jake. It's your wedding, not my therapy session." He said I was being dramatic and that I should be over it by now. I ended up stepping down as best man because I didn't want to be a distraction. Jake seemed disappointed, but accepted it. Then, 2 weeks ago, my mom calls me crying, saying Jake and Emily have decided they don't want me to attend at all if I can't be supportive. Apparently, Megan told Emily that she feels uncomfortable around me because of how cold I've been to her since finding out she's in the wedding. Cold? Yeah, maybe. I don't go out of my way to talk to my ex-wife. We're not enemies, but we're not friends either. The last time I saw her was when we signed the divorce papers, and it was one of the worst days of my life. I'm not angry at her. I just moved on. I don't need to see her again, especially at my brother's wedding. So, I told my family I wouldn't attend. My dad said he gets it, but my mom called it selfish and petty. Jake sent me a long text about how I've ruined his wedding and how I always make things about me. Emily texted too, saying she's disappointed because she wanted us all to be one big family. Now my relatives are split. Half think Jake and Emily are insane for inviting my ex-wife. The other half think I'm being childish for refusing to go. For context, I never dated anyone in our friend group after the divorce. Megan did, though. She dated one of her mutual friends briefly, and it ended badly. When that happened, I stayed out of it. I didn't gossip or pick sides. I just stayed in my lane. But it seems like she's always somehow in my orbit. She started working for a company that my firm partners with, and now she's in my brother's wedding. It's like the universe wants me to keep reliving my failed marriage. What really stung was what my mom said last week. She told me, "You should just show up, smile, and prove you've matured. Don't give Megan the satisfaction of knowing she bothers you." And I get what she's saying, but it feels like I'm being asked to perform emotional gymnastics for someone else's comfort. I don't think refusing to go means I haven't matured. I think it means I'm protecting my peace. Jake texted again last night, saying he's hurt beyond words that I can't put aside a little discomfort for one day. I told him, it's not a little discomfort. It's reliving the hardest part of my life in front of everyone while pretending it's fine. He replied, "That's pathetic." So now we're not speaking. My mom is begging me to apologize. My dad says to give him space. And I'm here wondering if I really am the jerk for drawing a boundary that everyone seems to think shouldn't exist. To be clear, I didn't tell anyone to disinvite Megan. I didn't demand that they change the wedding lineup. I just quietly said, I can't attend if she's going to be there. Apparently, that's enough to brand me as selfish and immature. Part of me wonders if this is really about Megan, or if Jake has some resentment he's never voiced. He's always lived a bit in my shadow, and maybe he sees this as some way of proving he's the bigger man. But it hurts that he'd rather have my ex-wife there than me. I've been going back and forth about it every day. A few friends said they'd have done the same thing. One said, if your ex is in the wedding party, your brother is either clueless or cruel. Another said, you should go just to prove you're over it. But I'm not trying to prove anything. I just don't want to spend the day pretending to be fine when I'm not. So, here I am, the supposedly bitter older brother who can't handle his ex-wife, standing in a matching outfit across from him while everyone celebrates. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should have just sucked it up and gone for Jake's sake. But every time I imagine sitting through their vows, their first dance, the speeches, all while my ex-wife smiles from the head table, it feels like a nightmare, not a celebration. I didn't think saying no to that would make me the bad guy, but maybe it does. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into my house even though I have extra rooms. So I, 32F, bought my first house 2 years ago. It's not a mansion or anything, but it's a nice 3-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood. I worked really hard for it. I was raised by a single mom, paid my own way through college, worked 2 jobs for years, and finally got to a place where I could afford a down payment. It was the proudest moment of my life signing those papers. One of the spare bedrooms is my home office because I work remotely, and the other is a guest room that mostly sits empty unless my boyfriend, 34M, or a friend stays over. I don't really need the extra space, but I like having it. Now, the problem started about 6 months ago when my sister Kayla, 36F, split from her husband. They have 3 kids, 10M, 8F, and 5F. The divorce was messy. Her ex cheated, and she ended up with primary custody. She was living in a rental house that was in his name, and when the divorce finalized, he told her she had to move out. She's been struggling ever since. At first, she stayed with our mom, but mom's house is small, only a 2-bedroom apartment. My mom loves her grandkids, but said having everyone there was chaos. So Kayla started hinting that I should help out family. When I say hinting, I mean constant texts, guilt trips, and even calling me selfish. She said things like, "You have a whole house to yourself while my kids are sharing one room at mom's." I told her I'd help however I could financially. I sent her $500 to help with a security deposit somewhere, and I offered to watch the kids occasionally. But I made it clear I didn't want roommates, even family. That apparently made me cold-hearted. A few weeks ago, she called me crying. She said she couldn't find a rental that would take her credit score and 3 kids, and she needed to be out of mom's place because they were fighting constantly. She said, "You have 3 bedrooms. The girls could share one, my son could take the guest room, and I could sleep on the couch." I told her no again. I said that I value my privacy, and my house isn't set up for kids. I reminded her I work from home and need peace and quiet during the day. She started yelling that I care more about my precious quiet time than my nieces and nephew having a roof. I hung up on her. That caused an explosion in my family group chat. My mom texted that I'm turning my back on blood. My aunt said I was lucky to be in a position to help, and it wouldn't kill me to let them stay a few months. My brother, 29M, is on my side. He says Kayla has always expected people to bail her out. This isn't the first time, either. She's always made poor financial choices. She quit jobs because she didn't like the vibe. She leased a new car right after the divorce, even though her old one worked fine, and she spends money on things like salon visits while saying she can't afford groceries. I love her, but she's irresponsible. Last week, my mom called me and said Kayla and the kids were officially moving out of her apartment in 2 days and had nowhere to go. She said I needed to step up. I asked why my mom couldn't just let them stay longer, and she said, "I can't live like this anymore. I am exhausted." I said, "Then how do you think I'm going to live with them here?" That set her off. She said I was selfish and heartless. I tried to explain that having 4 extra people, 3 of them children, move in would completely change my life. My house is quiet, tidy, and my sanctuary. I lose my office, my routine, my peace. She said, "Sometimes you have to sacrifice for family." I said, "I already did. I gave her money. I offer help. I just can't give her my home. Now half my family isn't speaking to me." Kayla posted a vague Facebook status about finding out who really has your back, and one of her friends even messaged me calling me a fake successful witch. The thing is, I do feel guilty. I see my nieces and nephew, and I love them. I don't want them to suffer. But I also know if I let them move in, it won't be just a few months. Kayla has a pattern. She stays, overstays, and then gets angry when people set boundaries. I know I'd end up being the bad guy again when I eventually told her to leave. Even my boyfriend said, if you let them in, they'll never leave. He's right. I can already picture Kayla getting too comfortable. Kids taking over the living room, toys everywhere, me losing all privacy, and having arguments when I ask for space. A few nights ago, Kayla showed up at my house. She had the kids in the car and said she just wanted to talk. I didn't let her in. I told her through the screen door that I wasn't changing my mind. She called me heartless again and said I'd regret it when the kids remember how I turned them away. Then she left. Now, every time I sit in my quiet house, I feel torn. I know logically I'm not responsible for her choices or her divorce, but emotionally it feels awful. My mom barely talks to me. Thanksgiving is coming up, and I already know it's going to be awkward. My brother says I shouldn't feel bad and that boundaries aren't cruelty, but I keep wondering, am I really the jerk for having space and not sharing it when my family needs help? I worked so hard to build this life, and now everyone's acting like I'm a villain because I won't sacrifice it. Part of me thinks I should have just said yes to avoid all the drama, but another part of me knows that would have led to even worse resentment later. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in, even temporarily, when I have the space to help. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.